Well, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Twickenham following the Gallagher Premiership final, a final which I think probably lived up to the billing. I thought it was a great game. I'm going to get into it. Now is your chance, if you're looking to avoid the result, to click off the video. But for the rest of you, welcome back and congratulations if you're a Northampton Saints fan. The comment section is where you can have your say as well if you're a Bath fan, because I think from both sides there are some interesting reflections upon this game which I'm going to get into. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of that whilst you're here. I haven't really made any notes for this video. I was here working, I was down pitch side at full time getting interviews and things like that, so I haven't necessarily got the notes that I would do for a normal video. But I thought it was a really good game. It was a different game, wasn't it? Because of the Beno Obano red card which happened around the 20-minute mark, Bath having to play an hour or so with a man down. But it was still so intriguing, and huge credit to Bath for the way in which they were able to keep themselves in the game essentially, because they went a man down. When Northampton scored those two quick fire tries shortly after that, I was sat there thinking, this is danger signs for Bath, because we know how good in attack Northampton can be. Is this going to end up being a 30-40 pointer and we're going to look back on the red card and think, that's frustrating? But actually Bath applied themselves brilliantly, and it's amazing how often we see that, isn't it? How often genuinely is it that you get a red card in a game and it never ends up being as one-sided as you suspect it might be? And there are some people, perhaps some of you watching this, that will think red cards always ruin games. I don't subscribe to that way of thinking. I think a lot of the time red cards will change a game, but they keep it incredibly interesting because both teams adapt. And I actually think in a way it galvanised Bath, because they had to approach the game in a slightly different way. They had to keep it tighter. And they did a brilliant job of that, of coming from behind, of taking the lead in the second half, and then not quite being able, right at the end of the game, to be able to score a try, which would have produced an unbelievably dramatic result. But here is one thing I will say on Bath, and I'm really intrigued. Bath fans, let me know in the comments if you completely disagree with me or if you think I'm onto something here. And let me reiterate, I give that Bath team an unbelievable amount of credit for the way in which they played that game, the way in which they showed so much endeavour and spirit to stick in it against a great team. Should they have won it though? Which feels like a really weird thing to say when you've played an hour of a game with a man down. But based upon particularly that second half, I thought Bath had a lot of the better of it, a lot more territory and possession. And I don't know, I just wonder whether actually, without the emotion of it, in the cold light of day when they review it, is that a game that's actually got away from Bath should they have won it? I'll be really intrigued if anyone sees it in the same way. There's part of me that feels that way, that as much credit as I give them, they maybe should have won it. But that's finals rugby, right? And speaking of finals rugby, Northampton Saints, congratulations. First title in 10 years, and deservedly so. I think most people would agree throughout the vast majority of this season, Northampton have been the side that have looked the best. They were good in the Champions Cup. They've been top of the Premiership for a long, long time, but they were far off their best today. And do you know what? That is the sign of a great team. And actually it's something that Sam Vesti, one of their coaches, said to me when I was doing interviews after the game. Basically said, we weren't great today. But think of all the best teams, whether it's the Bath teams of the 90s, whether it's the Wasps teams in the 2000s, or Leicester Tigers, or Saracens. Certain teams have an ability to win games and win finals in particular when they're not at their best, when they're not even playing that well. And I think that's exactly what Northampton Saints did today. There's loads of things in that game where they'll probably look back on with a bit of a sigh of relief, because they lost the breakdown. Bath were awesome. They were terrific in that area. They weren't particularly fluent in attack. We saw a lot of drop balls, but they got the job done. When it mattered most, they got themselves a try late on in the final 10 minutes with Alex Mitchell to retake the lead, and they were able to see the game out when Bath were pushing for a winner of their own towards the end of the game. So for Northampton, that is an unbelievable achievement. What an unbelievable way to end this season. And I suppose the big question for them, as much as they will enjoy this moment, as much as they will celebrate into the Twickenham night and have a booze bust probably all the way back to the Midlands, can they go again? I think that's the intriguing thing with this team. A lot of those sides I mentioned, whether it's Bath, Wasps, Leicester, Saracens, the best teams in English rugby have gone on to have a bit of a dynasty. Is this the platform for Northampton to do just that? And likewise, from a Bath perspective, is this season the platform that announces the club is back? Remember, they got to a final in 2015 and then they kind of dropped away after that. I think what we've seen from Johan van Graan and this Bath side is their fans have a lot of reason to feel positive about the years going forward, which has not always been the case. There have been a lot of tough moments for Bath over the years. The final thing I'll say in the video is a tribute to Courtney Laws, to Lewis Ludlam, to Alex Waller, 3 brilliant servants of that club who bow out with silverware. What an unbelievable fairy tale ending for their time at Northampton Saints. There's very few players get that. Look at Owen Farrell, for example, with Sarries, and what a great servant he's been there. And despite everything he's achieved, it probably didn't end in the way he would have wanted to. For those players, it's ended in exactly the way they want to. And actually one of the exciting things I think about this Northampton team is when you look at Laws and Ludlam and players like that, and they are very good, experienced players they're losing. Look at Tommy Freeman. Look at Finn Smith. Look at George Furbank or Ollie Slightholme or a number of other guys in that side that have come through from the academy and now are the heartbeat of that team. I think that is something that I would imagine from a fan's point of view is one of the most pleasing aspects of this, to have a team which has such an influence from the academy, players that have been there and done it for a long, long time and are now reaping the awards and are now the best team in England. I'll probably leave it there. I suppose there's other players I could mention. I thought Sam Underhill was immense today, by the way, both with his tackling, which we're used to, but also with his carrying as well. Thomas Toy, I think, has been one of the players of the season. I think it's been just one of the signings we've seen, because his impact for Bath, having had to come off the bench early, was just awesome. So destructive, good in the scrum. Was it 8 tries he's got this year now for a front row forward? So much to love, so much good stuff in there, and it brings the curtain down on one of the great, I think, Premiership seasons. This time last year, we were still sort of recovering from the demise of Wasps and London Irish and Worcester. This place for the final, the top tier wasn't even open, they didn't even sell it out. I get Bath, Northampton, different size fan bases, but it was a real Premiership final feel today. And actually, maybe that's something I'll leave you on, because you know, with the Premiership final, how people speak about the fact that it's a celebration of the whole league, and it is that, and that is a positive thing. You will see Gloucester shirts, you'll see Leicester shirts, you'll see Quinn shirts, you'll see Bristol shirts, you will see club shirts from every other team in the division, and on the one hand, it does have that real festival feel, which for obvious reasons is a great thing. I think the only problem with that is you often lose out on the fact of it feeling like a final, of it feeling like 2 fan bases dominating and being so invested in the outcome for their team. But I think we got exactly that today. It felt like there were far more Northampton and far more Bath fans. The atmosphere here was awesome. It was loud. You could see the different colours of the shirts and the flags of those 2 sets of supporters. And I don't really know what the solution is. I think it completely depends on what teams get to the final. But for me, that's a far more positive thing than it just having that kind of warm, cuddly festival feel to it. But it felt like a full-blooded final. So I'll leave it there. Comment down below, what do you make of the game and what do you make of these 2 teams? Bath fans, how are you feeling? Brutal, tough way to end, but positive for the future. And Northampton Saints, congratulations. It's been a decade. You are champions of England once more. And also, the future looks very, very bright. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you in the next one.